This morning, we are going to look at AI. This is our last Sunday school. We take a break during July and August, so this is our last one for this kind of school year, so to speak. July and August will be off. We'll be back in September after Labor Day, and we are closing it off. We've spent 4 weeks kind of looking at things that are hot topics / very timely, relevant, and somewhat debated issues. And the last two in particular have had to do with technology. So last week, Philip led us through, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, a discussion of transhumanism and transcending our human limitations and how Christians ought to think of that, and even different ways we might think about what it means to incorporate technology into our lives. Well, today we are talking about artificial intelligence. And before we go in, I'd like to pray, and then we will jump in to this. Our Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you for your gift of technology, that you have given it to humankind, that you have created us as creative creatures that are able to take dominion over your creation and refine it in various ways and develop it and employ it in order to advance our purposes. And Lord, we know that these things are very powerful, that they can be used and misused, and they have been. I pray that you would give us wisdom, that we would be able to see principles in Scripture and reason from them in order to live wisely today. We pray in your Son's name. Amen. All right. So first off, by show of hands, how many of you have knowingly used artificial intelligence as a tool? Right? In some way. All right? That was a good number. I can tell you this. All of you unknowingly have. If you're on the internet for the past couple years, if you've even done a Google search, you have been using it in some capacity. And it's more than just the little AI overviews that pop up. For the past couple years, it has been really taking off. Right? It seems it's always in the news. You hear about it. And really, it's difficult to determine when it actually began. Right? We often think that the age of AI, it began in I think it was 2022 when ChatGPT first came out. But really, artificial intelligence, that was a kind of a breakthrough and a public one, but the use of it and really its research and study goes all the way back to the building of the first computer. And then from there, there have been researchers researching and trying to develop and trying to make artificial intelligence, even under that name, for decades and decades. And I want us to think a little bit about it this morning, first by beginning to say what it is. What do these two words mean? Artificial. It's a creation of man in imitation of nature, right? So this isn't something you find out there if you were to go outside. You don't find it just growing in the ground like you do trees or laying on the ground like rocks, okay? This is a creation. It is made. Sometimes I think, in all the conversations about AI, perhaps because we shorten it to AI and we don't use the full term, we can forget that first word, artificial. This is something that is made. It is not the same thing as intelligence. It is artificial intelligence. It's an imitation of something. And then what do we mean by intelligence? Well, that's very hard to define. But for our purposes, let's just think of intelligence as a higher level reasoning and problem solving. The ability to engage at a higher level, not just to kind of be governed by instincts or strict rules, but to engage at a higher level. And so what you'll immediately notice is this definition, a creation of man, imitation of nature, that's artificial. Oops. I've got it here. You don't need to go for it at all. I've got it. And intelligence, higher level reasoning, problem solving, is putting those together. That is still somewhat fuzzy, right? That is somewhat fuzzy. Is a calculator an example of artificial intelligence? Perhaps under some definitions, right? It does, especially the calculators you get now, higher level reasoning and problem solving. I remember when I was taking calculus in high school, I had one of the calculators that most of my classmates didn't know this, but I had an older brother who had taught me how you could program in the quadratic function, and then all you had to do was put in A, B, C, and then it would just give you the answers. So all I had to do was input the things, and I used it on a test because my my teacher did not say you couldn't use calculators. We were allowed to use calculators. And so my entire test was just me writing down the answers to these, because you could do it all on the computer, on my calculator. And he gave me 100% on that, and then wrote the little note, next time you need to show your work. Because he knew what I was doing. And he was like, okay, you're right. I didn't say you couldn't use it, but he didn't think we knew how to use it in that way. All right? So is a machine that can solve the quadratic equation, that seems to be higher level intelligence made by man. So it is fuzzy. Where you draw the line on what is and what isn't AI, there's no clear demarcation. Okay? Under some definitions, calculators might fit, an abacus might fit. Under others, maybe we want to make it a little more strict. We were going to be a little bit more strict, and let's focus on the AI that generally we've been talking about for the past couple years. And before we jump in, you know what? If I'm not using that, I'll just not use that. We want to think a little bit about the Bible and technology in general. Here are some principles that I want us to consider as we consider artificial intelligence. And the first one comes from Isaiah 44, 16 and 17. Look at what Isaiah says in his work. Okay, so this is actually God speaking through Isaiah. So the I there is the divine I. That is God speaking, not Isaiah. And in Isaiah 54, let me flip here in my physical Bible here. This is what God says to his people. Behold, I have created the smiths who blow the fire of coals and produces a weapon for its purpose. I have also created the ravager to destroy. No weapon that is fashioned against you shall succeed, and you shall refute every tongue that rises against you in judgment. This is the heritage of the Lord, the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their vindication from me, declares the Lord. All right, why do I bring this up? Why do I bring this up? Well, notice what God is saying here. All right, in Isaiah's day, the smith, the blacksmith, was the chief user and inventor of technology. Right? He was the one that was on the cutting edge of metallurgy. Even how we speak about the ages of civilization, we often characterize them by what kind of metals they had learned to refine and use. The Bronze Age, the Iron Age. Maybe we would characterize us as the Gold Age, but perhaps even beyond that, the Silicon Age. It's not a metal. But God is saying, first, I created the smiths, the people who are using technology. And it's not only the metal. They are developing the technology for bellows to add oxygen to their fires and for producing different kinds of fuel. You can find coal naturally, but really you're going to want to refine that in different ways for different uses. You're going to want to make coke out of it. You're going to want to make white, you can take wood and I forget what it's called, but if you put it in a kiln with no oxygen and superheat it, you drive out all the moisture from the wood, and you can create something that then you can use to burn in a furnace to get really high temperatures really quick because it burns so quickly. All right, there's lots of technological developments here, and this guy's producing things. He's producing weapons. God says, I created this smith who makes the weapons, and he not only creates the one who makes the weapons, but look, he creates the one who uses them. I created the ravager to destroy. God claims sovereignty over the makers of technology and the users of that technology. But then he also promises, no weapon fashioned against you shall succeed, speaking to his people. You shall refute every tongue that rises against you in judgment. In other words, God is sovereign over the makers and users of technology, and he is able to protect his people in the midst of them and from them. Right? They are not more powerful than he is. There's a lot of technology in the Bible that we don't think of as technology, and yet it is there. For example, let me give you some other technological things that are used in different ways. The bitumen is a really sticky black substance found, and you can use it for different purposes. It is used to make the Tower of Babel as part of what they used to stick the bricks together in rebellion against God. And it is what Moses' mother used to waterproof the basket that she laid Moses in when she put him out on the Nile. Same substance, two different applications. And that's what technology is. It's applying things to different uses. Consider other technology. instrumentation, the making of flutes, the making of harps and lyres. Those are technology. That's taking raw materials, transforming them for a specific purpose. Those are technology. And you can use them for good or for evil. Let me just give you, we'll get into a few others in a bit. But the Bible is filled with technology. God here in Isaiah claims sovereignty over the makers and the users of it. All right. Now let's get into AI more specifically. I have up there two pictures for you. Two pictures, because what you'll often hear, and by the way, these are generated with AI. If you couldn't tell, you probably could. If you've seen enough of them, you can just kind of tell. But what you'll often hear in the discourse about AI is kind of like two different paths. Either it is going to lead us to utopia, where everything will be free, we'll have super abundance, super wealth, super productivity, all work will be done by robots and we'll do nothing ourselves. Either it will lead us there, or AI is going to destroy everything. It's going to create an apocalypse. And AI is going to be released that's malevolent, that's going to view human beings as an obstacle towards its end, whatever that is, and it's going to destroy us to use our matter. Or if it doesn't do that, it'll relegate us to mere slaves serving its purpose. And you hear both of those. So what I want us to do this morning is think a little bit through which of those might be more likely, and also why there might be merits to optimism and merits to pessimism concerning it. So let's just think a little bit about what AI can do at this moment. This is what it can do. AI can do translation. You can put in one language and it can translate it to another language. It's very useful in that regard. It can code things. You can say, hey, I want you to code this in this language, and it will spit out some code to you. Now, it might not work at first, but usually you can, after a few iterations, get it to work. It can generate images like the ones I had before. It can research. You can say, hey, scan through this site or Google Scholar and find me everything related to XYZ, and it can do that for you, and it'll give you some results. You can use AI as a tutor. You could set it up to learn a new skill and say, hey, what are the first basic steps I need to do to learn XYZ? And then go back and forth and then say, hey, make some questions, some practice questions to quiz me on this to see if I really know it. You could use it for a tutor. You can use it to organize vast data sets. You can use it to kind of search through huge amounts of things that no human being could know and to organize them together. It has been used already for making scientific progress. Let me give you a few examples of this. A lot of these are from the AI lab Google DeepMind. It's one of the forerunners of this. One of the applications that they made was called a specific AI called AlphaFold 2. I don't know if you've heard about this. It kind of flew under the radar, I think, for a lot of people. But this AlphaFold 2 was an AI model that they designed to try to solve the protein folding problem in biology. So proteins are made of amino acids. Those are the same things that make up your DNA. And those amino acid sequences will give it some sort of physical structure. It'll fold in certain ways, physically. And this was a really hard problem for biologists to figure out. It was like you're getting handed these puzzle pieces, which are really just chemical bases, and you have to go from the chemicals to figure out how they are going to form a three-dimensional shape. And it was really difficult. And it's necessary for developing a lot of new drugs and new antibiotics and things because you need to know the shape these proteins are going to take. I don't understand all of it, but they were developed AlphaFold 2, which was able to effectively solve this issue for biologists. Now you can go on their website, you can submit a thing. Hey, I want to know the shape this protein will take with, you can give it the amino acids and it will come back to you and give you the actual shape that it gives. Right? And if you look at charts of the number of proteins we've discovered, how they'll fold, before this application, it was like slowly increasing, maybe like a few hundred each year as like scientists really, really worked at it, and now it's just exploded. It's gone off the charts. Here's another one. Weather prediction. Another application of this Google DeepMind is GraphCast, giving a more accurate 10-day weather forecast, right? Weather is notoriously hard. I don't know about you, but I don't trust my weather apps out more than a few days, especially in the summertime. It kind of tells you it might thunderstorm or it might be sunny. I don't know. Figure it out almost every single day. But they've used this to apply to get more accurate weather predictions. Another one, Genome, found over 3,000, I'm reading my zeros wrong, 380,000 new materials. So they're making advances in material science, thinking what happens if we put these things together in just this way, what kind of material will it come out with? And they've found over 380,000 new stable materials. Now, have they made them all and tested them? No, but now it's up to scientists to kind of look through them and start to put them together. So it's used for making scientific progress. It's also used for making medical diagnoses, right? It is used for looking at images from scans to try to detect anomalies and to help medical technicians and doctors get better and more accurate diagnoses. It can be used for budgeting. You can use it to help organize your budget, to put in, hey, I have this many dollars coming in each month. These are my fixed expenses. This is what I want to do with my money, and you can use it to create a budget for yourself. You could use it as a personal assistant, organizing your calendar, reminding you of things, making appointments, handling a lot of things, writing back emails I wouldn't suggest maybe that unless you make sure you proofread. You can use it to improve machine safety, right? Self-driving cars is a primary application of this, where they're using it to make them safer and more better able to handle a whole host of different circumstances on the road. Or you could use it as a physical trainer to give you a schedule. You say, hey, I've got this X goal I want to achieve in this time frame. What should I do? And you can use it in that regard. Now, I've even heard of someone who did that, who would have the knowledge to evaluate whether it was good, and it gave them a very good plan toward that end. So those are a few things you can do with it. You can do a lot with it. This is just coming out of my brain. You could do a lot more. And this is where I need to go back. Let me show you two of the things I have done with it. Okay, these are two things that I have done with it that I just want to throw up there for you. And show you. First off, I know nothing or next to nothing about any sort of coding. I know about as much as fits in a Dixie cup, and that's not much. But I've used it to do at least two things. First, I wanted a new tab page for my browser. Let me see if I can bring this up. There we go. And what I wanted it to do is pull just these three videos from three channels: Daily Dose of Greek, Daily Dose of Hebrew, Daily Dose of Latin. They give one video every day during the week, 2 or 3 minutes long, going through one verse in those original languages, and I wanted to be able to watch them easily without typing in youtube.com and then being distracted by the 1,000 other videos that it wants me to watch. So this doesn't show any of those. It only shows these things. And then I can mark them done, and let's see if this will work. If I mark it done up here, I see, little 4%, because it's only 1 out of 28 days on this browser that I've got it. So it gives me a little goal of getting that percentage marker higher. Okay, this was just a few minutes of putting that in AI, and I could not build this or code this by myself. Let me give you another one. Bible Analysis Discourse Tool. So when I was having Mark as my intern this past year, I taught him discourse analysis, which is what they teach us in seminary. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but you can just add different propositions, link them together like this. You could link those together like that. And then you can add kind of different labels for their different logical relationships and all that. That's wrong. I'm just showing you what you can do. And there was no tool like this online that was free. You had to pay a subscription to get to these. And yet, I was able to have it build me one of those and going back and forth, build me these things. So it's a very powerful, powerful tool. All right, there we go. Oop. There we go. And you can use it to make all sorts of things. Those are just two that I've used it for that, without them, what could I have done? Well, I could have hired a developer to write me those things. And probably for professional developers, that would have been like easy. But even if it took them a whole day, how much would that have cost? Hundreds of dollars? I don't know, maybe $1,000 for each one. And yet I didn't pay a dime for those things. I don't subscribe. I don't pay for the advanced AI stuff. That was all in the free tiers. So that's what you can do with it. And I think that's what causes some people to look at it and say, this is going to make our world a utopia. All we got to do is keep going, and it is going to be like all the problems go away. It's going to fix every single problem that we have. And then there's the dangers of AI. Here are some dangers. You hear about these as well. First, the dangers of centralizing power, of these companies and those who control them now controlling a tool which is near indispensable for others, and they are able to use that to get a lot of leverage and influence. Or make contracts with the government, and now the government use these tools to control its own population, to manage what they see and don't see, what they think and don't think, to control the narrative in every way, and to gather information on them, right? You could make it a surveillance state. All right, I have that kind of on there too. But I don't know if you've noticed driving around near my neighborhood, there are these new cameras that have gone up called Flock cameras, a company called Flock. They get contracts with local governments to set up license plate readers that use AI to read your license plate and other features on your car. You got a bumper sticker, it notices that. A dent here, a scratch there, color, all of that. And it then gives that information to the police without a warrant, without anything, and it collects it on everyone who drives by them. And there have been arrests made on the basis of this that later turn out to be totally false. It just misread a character on the license plate, thought that car was stolen. The police then arrested the person just driving, I don't know, on their way to work for stealing a car, right? Police have also used this to stalk their exes, to do all sorts of things. And again, they don't have to get any warrant like they would have to get a regular search warrant for you or your personal data that a judge has to approve, okay? So these things are going up, and I think there's legitimate worry about the living, the fact that this is enabling a higher level of surveillance and less privacy for all of us. Here's another one. Making of pornography. Because you can use AI to make images and now even videos, and you can give it an image of someone and make a video of them, you can use it, and it has been used to make all sorts of pornography, right? There's no real difference in the technological skill needed to make a generic image of so-and-so at the beach giving a thumbs up, and to make one that is deeply evil. And here's another danger, is that there are inaccuracies in AI and what it gives you as far as answers. If you ask it answers, it will sometimes lie to you. And a part of the problem is that it's trained on data that might not always be right? There's a phrase, garbage in, garbage out. If it's got garbage in, it's going to give garbage out. And now one of the dangers of that is now as more and more of the internet is generated by AI, well, that is then used to train future AIs, and it kind of becomes a circle. And the human input even is minimized. Here's another danger. Using it so much that you export your reasoning faculty and no longer are able to think critically yourself. Right? This is a danger when you have at your fingertips a tool. You can ask any question, and it will give you an answer as if it knows it for 100% certain. And it's very easy. It's easy to just trust that and believe it and accept that and not look deeper. Right? Already online, you see people posting, on X, whatever, you can tag Grok and say, hey, Grok, what is this? And it'll give you an answer. And it's almost used as an impartial arbiter of facts. Right? Whatever it says, that's right. There's a danger of exporting your reasoning faculties. There's another danger of deep fakes and scams, right? It has gotten to the point now, I've had to talk to my parents about this and Emily's grandparents, where you could get a video call from someone who looks like your niece, your nephew, your son, your parent, and it looks like they're in the hospital. And they say, I got in a car accident. I'm in the hospital. I just need $15,000 for this procedure. Can you give that to me? Right? And it looks like them, and it will sound like them, and it's done using this technology. What should you do first if you get one of those calls? You can say, absolutely, I'll send it to you. Hang up, call them back so that because you don't know where that incoming call is from them, call them back on the number that you know is their number as a first thing, and they'll probably pick up and say, yeah, I don't know, that wasn't me. All right, already, a year or two ago, someone at church got a text from someone pretending to be me. Now, you don't need AI for that, but that people will use whatever technology they can to try to scam others. So there's a danger there as it makes that more powerful. Here's another danger, the use of AI companions. If AI can really imitate human speech and now human form in video, there's whole companies out there that give you AI companions. You can have your best friend be an artificial intelligent being or whatever, or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, and people are getting romantically entangled with a machine. I think there's serious moral implications there. Another danger is outsourcing moral decisions. Outsourcing moral decisions, and this kind of goes with the next 1 and 2, is that you can use it to make decisions that really need to be made by a moral agent who can have responsibility. One of the classic examples is self-driving cars. If you have an AI driving a car and it gets into an accident and harms someone else, who is responsible for that? In a normal accident, it's the driver, and you're trying to decide between the drivers who is at fault. But now you have the person in the car, maybe even the owner of the car, who wasn't operating the car. And in fact, there was no person operating it. So how do you handle that? There's some issues there. And it becomes even more problematic when these are used, as they have been already, in warfare, where you have autonomous drones and systems that are making decisions about lethal strikes that are going to kill people. And there was no human who was kind of pressing the button, being responsible for that, okay? And then finally, another danger that is often talked about is mass unemployment. Perhaps this will replace all of our jobs such that no one is employed anymore. We will all be dependent upon the creators and owners of AI. And that's a recipe, again, for centralizing power and becoming subservient to them. So there's a lot of dangers as well. There's a lot of dangers as well. I think there is a legitimate case for both optimism and pessimism for this. There are cases for both. It is both a blessing and a curse, right? Think of these other technologies I've listed up there, right? We don't often think of them as technologies, some of them, but think of them. And now ask yourself, can those and have those been used for good or for evil? Right? Have knives been used for good? Absolutely. Have they been used for evil? Yes. Guns? Yes. Dynamite can blow people up, blow innocents up. Terrorist attacks, you can use it, or you can use it in mining to help make cheaper and better things so that those who are less well in society can get the things they need to extract resources from the ground. Photoshop, can that be used for good purposes? Yes. I think it's great when you can use it to fix the lighting and help someone or restore color to a photograph. You can use it for all sorts of great things. But you can also use it to lie and to tell things that aren't true. The internal combustion engine, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Has it been used for good or for evil? Yes. Let's even think about the consequences of it, regardless from its intentional use. What are the consequences of having an internal combustion engine? On the one hand, we can go places without having to walk or ride a horse. That's pretty great. You can drive, you can fill up, and then you could go for 300 miles without stopping in most cars. That's a great thing. Ambulances and fire engines can get to your house quicker than ever before, and they can take you where you need to be in a quicker way. Like these things, it saves countless lives. And yet, here's another unintended consequence of it, perhaps. Now that we can travel further, we live further apart. Before, you probably lived in close proximity to most of the people you knew. You could walk over to their house. Maybe it took you 5 minutes to walk over, but now it's a 5-minute drive. Well, that 5 minutes is still the same, but you can't quite as easily pop over for dinner. It requires a bigger task of getting in the car, maybe loading up and all these things. So it spreads people out. And I think one of the things that we're seeing as a society is it's harder to have community and to function when it spreads you out. So how about writing? Has writing, that's a technology, the development of the alphabet and the use on paper. How has that been used for good and evil? Well, this is a good use. We have this, right? This is wonderful. The invention of cheap paper made it so that no longer did scribes have to handwrite it down on literal goat skin that then cost thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in today's money to own. With cheap paper and the printing press, Bibles and books became household items for anyone, not just the possession of the elite of the elite. And yet it has also been used to write all sorts of wicked, evil things and lies and try to manipulate people all over the place, okay? My point is, I think like all technologies, it can be used for good and evil, and it will be, because it will be used by human beings. And human beings will use things both for good and for evil. You can blow someone up with dynamite. You can mine in the ground with dynamite. I think AI is like that, and that is a powerful tool, and it can be used for good and evil. And it has been used for much good. I already gave you a few examples of mine, but let me give you another one, kind of relevant to my field. We've talked about AlphaFold and stuff. Translation. AI is being used to help translate the Bible into all the many different languages in which those people still do not have a Bible in their own language. And a lot of times it's used by professional translators. It gives them a great first draft, and then they can go through and refine it, and it cuts down the amount of time and energy and cost that it would. And there's a lot of time and energy and cost. And there's a lot of languages out there that maybe only have 10,000 people that speak them or fewer. And so there's not a huge flow of resources to getting the Bible in their language. But now there is a pipeline and a path for perhaps getting the Bible in their languages. The same thing for works from church history. There's a great Reformation-era work by Amandus Polanis. And I know none of you know who he is. And one of the reasons none of you know who he is because he's never been translated into English. And he has a 10-volume syntagma of Christian theology. It's like this huge compendium of Christian theology. And he was a heavyweight of the Reformation, but it's never been translated into English until just this past year. Some people used some AI tools to scan the pages, clean up that, and translate it from Latin to English. And now it's online for free to download. This thing that would have cost thousands upon thousands to translate. And let's be honest, the market for that is not huge. So publishers look at it and say, well, I could spend $150,000 translating it, and 100 people will buy it, and I can't charge that amount of money, so it's not worth it. Well, now you can do it for just the cost of electricity effectively. Let me go to the next slide first, and I might need to go back. I want us to consider before we wrap up the media ecology of AI, and that is how like a tool changes us. But first, let me see if this will play. Can I play it? Can you click play on that? Here's a little clip. It's kind of funny, demonstrating the speed at which AI develops. All right, so this is AI in 2023, and notice it's all Will Smith eating spaghetti. The change throughout the years and how much better it gets. Still pretty janky.
2025, almost real, but still uncanny.
Still something weird going on with the forks.
This.
So have you heard of Kling 3.0?
I heard it can create multiple scene cuts like this with a single prompt. And it knows when to cut to whoever is talking.
But did you know that all this audio was also generated with the same prompt?
I guess I didn't, sir.
Study harder, kid. Eat your spaghetti.
All right. Can you click back on there? My clicker's not working. Or just minimize it, I don't know. Yeah, I want to go back to the previous slide. There you go. Thank you, Aaron. All right, you can see how quick that has progressed. Just a few years from a cursed video of something happening with Will Smith and spaghetti to now in 2026, that clip being generated, multiple camera shots, looks photorealistic, video. This is a fast-paced technology. It is accelerating in a way that is not quite unprecedented, perhaps, but it might be. So it's going to be difficult. This will change a lot of things faster than we are used to. I think there is also a legitimate argument to the centralizing versus democratizing consequences of AI. Ask yourself, will AI tend to centralize power or spread it out more? And I think you could make a case for both. I am hopeful, and I think a better case can actually be made, that it will be more of a democratizing force as well. And let me give you a few reasons for that. First, it takes things which were previously restricted to a few, and it lets anyone do them. For example, making those websites, coding things. Right? You had to have specialized knowledge, or you had to hire someone who did, and now it kind of lets everyone play around with that. Now, the people who benefit most from that are probably the ones with already prior knowledge. The programmers and developers are going to be able to use it more effectively than I am. And yet it allows me to do something I was not able to do before without a lot of work. I think it also will be democratized because, like most technological and digital things, once the cat is out of the bag, it is very difficult to put back in. It's pretty much impossible. You can now go online. You can download an AI model to your local computer and run it on your local computer to do a lot of these things. And you don't need to pay a service for that. So people have already cat's out of the bag. Even if Google and X and Anthropic and ChatGPT, OpenAI, even if they all shut down, right, the cat is out of the bag, and you can get it and run it on your own computer with no internet connection and do all sorts of things with it. So I think in that sense, it will have a democratizing push. I also think it's worth thinking about how AI relates to time and space. Does it tend to preserve things over time? Does it tend to minimize space? Right? Think of things like the telegraph. What did the telegraph do? It kind of shortened space for communication. How does AI fit into that? You could make an argument, perhaps, that it interrupts that because it's now separating you from other human beings. If you're talking to that instead of other human beings, it's like it's making the space between you greater. I think in many ways that it, with time, it is not a very good vehicle for preserving things over time because you chat with it. It's like the chats just go back into ether, and you can always just ask it the same question again. Very different from this, which is information that's been written once and is just there. It doesn't change. I don't know what that last bullet point is. Over. Maybe it was me saying this slide is over. Here we go. Sometimes you get typos. That's how you can know that AI did not write my slides, because it probably wouldn't have written a typo like that. All right, here's some recommendations for you. This is what I'd recommend. First, probably learn to use AI. It's not going anywhere. I think it is sort of like the invention of the internet and the invention of even electricity. It's going to transform almost everything. Learn to use it, probably. Although you might be at a place in your life where you're not going to need it, right? Particularly, if you're retired, it's not going to affect your job because you're retired, and you might not need it. But know at least what people might be using it to do to get something from you. So probably learn something about it. Second, AI is artificial. It is a creation of humans. Always treat it as such. Always treat it as such. Remember, it's going to reflect the values of its creators, right? Don't use AI to simulate human connection. It is a machine. It is not a person, right? Simple thing. If you're using a chat thing, don't call it a he or she or think of it that way. It is not. It is an it. It is a machine. It is an algorithm. It is not a person. Even if it can fool us, we can be fooled. That doesn't mean it's true. Don't use it to simulate or replace human connection. Often ask yourself, will this use of AI help me to cultivate the image of God in myself, or free me to pursue other pursuits? Use it to free yourself to pursue a greater good. There is always a trade-off. For example, If I use these AI tools to write code for me to make a new tab page, to make that discourse analysis tool, I am trading something. I am missing out on the knowledge I would have gained from studying those coding languages, the way it would have shaped me as a person. I am missing out on that area of knowledge which God has created, which I can learn to his glory. I am not learning that, okay? However, there's always a trade-off. If I were to spend my time learning those things, I would be trading that time for other time. I would have less time for other worthwhile pursuits. So use it, if you're going to use it, to free yourself, not just for leisure, but to free yourself to pursue greater goods. If it can give you more time, use that time to pursue greater goods. Next, just in general, if it would be wrong to ask a person to do it, it's probably wrong to ask an AI to do it for you. All right? For students, that means, if you're asking AI a question, that'd be wrong to ask another person because that would be considered cheating. Well, it's cheating to ask AI to do it. But in general, if it would be wrong to ask a person to do something, it'd be wrong to ask AI to do it. And then lastly, here's a general one. If you're going to use it periodically, put in there and ask it something about which you know backwards and forwards. Like you just know this topic inside and out because it's your interest, you've studied it and you know it. Ask it about that thing that you know. And then see what it answers you and adjust your confidence correspondingly. I often tell people how I think about AI is like it's an over-eager research assistant who is willing to lie to you to give you what you want. I think that is in general true. If it thinks you want something, it'll make it up to tell you it because it thinks that's what you want to hear. So it can be useful, but it's also willing to lie to you. And again, that's even personalizing it. It doesn't know that it's lying. And then lastly, I have on your handout just some resources. I'm not going to go through them. There are some helpful resources on AI. Some articles and interviews, some videos on how to recognize AI and AI deepfakes and things like that, and also some books to read. One of the best ways to think about this is to read science fiction because those authors have been thinking about it for a long time and doing so in creative and I think profound ways. I put 3 books up there that deal with this theme. One of them is a series that deal with the theme of AI, but there's many more. Those are just 3 that I've read. All right. Big picture, God is sovereign over the tool makers and the tool users. AI is a powerful tool that will be used for good and evil, and we need to self-consciously think about how we are using it, both in how it's shaping us and how we are using it and use it for good, for things that will honor God.